I'm so grateful and proud to be with you on this beautiful Flag Day. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I want to thank my good friend Dave Kopaz of the Ware Republican Town Committee for the great privilege of being able to stand with you and before you this afternoon to proclaim liberty here at the Swift River Sportsman's Club. It is always a great day for me when I am given the opportunity to stand up for the legacy of my founding fathers and the God-given rights for which they mutually pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, so that my children and yours might live free. It is said that a woman who demands further gun control legislation is like a chicken that roots for Colonel Sanders. Never has this been truer than it is at this moment in history, amid an age of terror and America's moral decay. The events of the last year and a half to 2 years alone, the horror of Sandy Hook, the Boston Marathon Massacre, the manhunt for its terrorists, and the cradle of liberty in lockdown are sobering testaments to this sage and stark truth. A woman who demands further gun control legislation is like a chicken that roots for Colonel Sanders. As a woman living in Massachusetts, just 90 miles away from the Boston terror of 2013, I can attest to the truth of that statement. On the morning of April 19th, 2013, upon hearing the news of the Boston area lockdown and ensuing manhunt for a terrorist, my then 14-year-old son said to me, "I'm sure people with guns out there are a lot more comfortable than the people without them." Amen. And he's sitting right there, by the way. As a teenager unsullied by the anti-gun propaganda of the day, he gets it. He understands the importance of the Second Amendment, that the right of the people to keep and bear arms is necessary to the security of a free state. But on this anniversary of the Battle of Lexington, and Concord last year, the unarmed citizens of Boston and beyond were neither secure nor free, as they remained prisoners in their own homes, held captive by a state-imposed lockdown and the imminent threat of a terrorist on the loose. But as a gun-owning mom in America, I find myself, to our children and country's great peril, surrounded by women, moms in particular, who are demanding further gun control. I remain baffled by this counterintuitiveness, this denial of the right of self-defense, the right to life, particularly when it comes from my fellow moms. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. God gave us our fight or flight instincts for a reason. Moms in particular have a heightened sense of this, especially when it comes to defending our children. It is a mom's most basic instinct to want to protect her children. Even mother animals have this sense. I am reminded of the mother salmon that swims upstream against perilous currents to protect and ultimately give life to their young. Tragically, we are living in a culture that bombards us with counterintuitive messages. The media, the feminist movement, public educators, politicians, they've all managed to alienate women from their God-given intuition. Far too many women, moms in particular, have been conditioned to question and deny human nature, and thus give over to the government that by which is our God-given right. Days after the Sandy Hook atrocity, I had a sobering conversation with one of my son's former teachers, a fellow mom, that left an indelible impression upon me. We were two grief-stricken moms mourning for these beautiful children and their shattered families. We mourned for Newtown. As moms, we also shared our mutual fear that this same fate might one day strike our own children's school or another school in our district. But as a teacher, this fellow mom also expressed her fear of not being able to defend her students in the event of a similar attack. What she said in that moment, I believe, should be a clarion call for every American, particularly every Second Amendment advocate in America. In reference to my child's school, in every classroom in that school, with tears in her eyes, she said, "We are like sitting ducks." Sitting ducks. This devoted mom and dedicated teacher was acknowledging that if a madman or a terrorist were to enter my children's school, she would have no recourse. I'll never forget the look of fear and trauma in her eyes. Though I don't know whether or not she supports gun control legislation, I do know that at that moment she made a perfect case for arming every willing and able teacher in every school in America. Everyone knows our schools are gun-free zones, and common sense tells us our children are indeed sitting ducks. But in the wake of Sandy Hook, what has been the response? More gun control. Demands for further gun control by the grieving parents of those poor innocents killed in Newtown that day, along with the countless other moms across the country. Just like a woman who demands further gun control is like a chicken that roots for Colonel Sanders, a mom who demands any gun control legislation is like a mother hen who roots for the fox. Yet it is mind-boggling to note that women, moms in particular, are leading the charge to disarm America. The demand for further gun control has recently been dubbed the next great women's issue. Aided and abetted by feminist groups like the National Organization for Women and a coalition of mothers calling themselves Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. As a gun-owning mom of 7, I find it ironic but predictable that the same now feminists whose rallying cry is "my body, my choice," under the banner of empowerment, are the same liberal feminists who seek to disempower me by stripping me of my Second Amendment rights, leaving me like a sitting duck to those who would do harm to my children and me. In their perverted minds, my body, my choice seems to only apply to women who seek to kill their unborn children in the womb, rather than those moms like me who seek to preserve our God-given unalienable right to defend the lives of our children. At its core, to be anti-Second Amendment is to be anti-life.
Right.
Rather than demanding gun sense, Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America should instead demand a return to our nation's legacy of common sense and self-evident truths. For the sake of our children and country, they should instead demand and take action to preserve and protect and defend the Second Amendment against every Colonel Sanders in Congress. For it is a mutable truth that every school massacre, be it Littleton, Paducah, Blacksburg, Aurora, Tucson, or Newtown, took place in what was deemed a gun-free zone where the victims were sitting ducks, as the coward who perpetrated each atrocity knew they would not fight back. At the time of the Sandy Hook massacre, we know that Connecticut already had some of the most restrictive gun laws in the country. For as Michael E. Hammond of Gun Owners of America said, the anti-gun policy didn't work out very well for the kids at Newtown. All it did was telegraph to Adam Lanza that you can get your 15 minutes of fame, shoot up a classroom of first graders, and you don't have to worry that there's anyone out there who's going to shoot back. Moms of America, the time for choosing is at hand. We must not allow our children, teachers, families, or ourselves to be sitting ducks. As moms, we must instead be swimming salmon, forging ahead upstream against this anti-gun culture of political piranhas that seek to shred our Constitution and the God-given unalienable rights of men and women. As moms, we are the heart of our homes and ultimately the heart of this body politic. We must unite in prayer and purpose as the gatekeepers of her freedom. We must proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. while cultivating a culture of life, liberty, faith, hope, charity, family, courage, honor, truth, virtue, patriotism, perseverance, and self-reliance in our homes. These and God's grace are what will preserve freedom in our Constitution. These and God's grace are what will save America. It will not be easy, of that we can be sure. But as the late, great Iron Lady and fellow mom, Margaret Thatcher, said, freedom is not synonymous with an easy life. There are many difficult things about freedom. It does not give you safety. It creates moral dilemmas for you. It requires self-discipline. It imposes great responsibilities. But such is the nature of man, and in such consists his glory and salvation. God bless you all. Thank you very much.